The milk we commonly find on the market is first of all distinguished into whole milk, semi-skim milk, and skim milk. The main difference between these three types concerns the amount of fat present, and as a consequence, their caloric intake, creaminess flavor, and the quantity of some vitamins. Whole milk generally contains about 3.5% fat. It is the richest, it has a full and round taste, a slightly denser consistency, and a greater satiating power. Precisely because fats are the most energetic part, it is also the most caloric milk. Moreover, many fat-soluble vitamins are concentrated in the fat of the milk, such as vitamin A and vitamin D, which are important respectively for eyesight, skin, the immune system, and for calcium metabolism and bone health. This type of milk is the one that most closely resembles the original composition of freshly milked milk. Obviously, after hygienic treatments, such as pasteurization, semi-skim milk represents a middle ground. The amount of fat generally drops to around 1.5 or 1.8%, therefore about half compared to whole milk. This means lower calorie content, while still maintaining a certain creaminess and a taste that many people still find satisfying. Fat-soluble vitamins also decrease, precisely because part of the fat is removed, but they do not disappear completely. It is often the milk chosen by those who want to control their fat intake without completely giving up the taste and the sensation of fullness in the mouth. Skim milk, on the other hand, is the one that contains less than 0.3% fat. The fatty part is almost completely removed, and the result is a lighter drink, more watery, and with a much more delicate flavor, which some perceive as not very tasty compared to whole milk. Consequently, the calorie intake is the lowest among the three types, while the vitamins linked to fat decrease significantly. However, proteins, lactose, calcium, and many other minerals remain. So from a nutritional point of view, it is not empty, but it is certainly less rich than the whole version in terms of energy and vitamins. In summary, whole milk offers more flavor, more fat, and more fat-soluble vitamins. Semi-skim milk is a compromise between flavor and lightness. Skim milk is suitable for those who must or wish to drastically reduce fat, knowing, however, that they are giving up a good part of the creaminess. Connected to the topic of milk, there is also the difference between milk produced by cows that live in the mountains at pasture in the meadows and that coming from cows raised in more intensive systems, often in the lowlands and in barns for most of the year. Cows that graze in the mountains feed mainly on fresh grass flowers and wild herbs, as well as hay harvested from meadows that are often rich in biodiversity. This kind of natural and varied diet affects not only their health, but also the composition of the milk, in particular the profile of fatty acids and aromas. Pasture milk can have a higher presence of some fats considered more favorable, such as certain omega-3s and particular fatty acids that form when the animal feeds on grass, and it can present a slightly more yellow color due to the plant pigments present in the forage. From the point of view of welfare, a cow that lives at pasture generally has more space to move walks more, can choose where to lie down, and can follow a behavior more similar to that natural to cattle, which are animals made to graze and move slowly in a group. This usually results in less stress, better muscle tone, and if the farmer is careful, a lower incidence of certain diseases linked to forced housing. In addition, grazing contributes to the maintenance of the mountain landscape, prevents meadows from turning into scrubland, favors the biodiversity of plants and insects, and can reduce the risk of landslides and soil erosion, because the meadows remain alive and rooted. On the other side, there are cows raised in intensive systems, often in the lowlands. Here, nutrition is designed to maximize milk production. The ration includes concentrated feeds such as corn, cereals, soy, corn, and grass silage, as well as hay. Everything is calculated precisely to provide the cow with energy, protein, and fiber in the right proportions, in order to obtain many lactations and high yields per animal. The downside is that the diet is less spontaneous and less tied to the local territory. The milk is more standardized with a similar taste throughout the year, and the profile of fatty acids depends more on the formulation of the feed than on grazing on natural meadows. As for welfare in intensive farms, Cows often live in barns with spaces that can vary greatly from one farm to another. There are modern facilities with large cubicles, rubber floors, automatic brushes, and ventilation and cooling systems. But there are also more crowded and less comfortable situations where the animal has few stimuli and little space. In these conditions, the risk of stress, hoof diseases, and problems linked to intensive production can increase. From an environmental point of view, concentrating many animals in a relatively small area means managing large quantities of manure with possible problems of odors. Water and air pollution if correct techniques are not adopted. In return, productivity per hectare is very high, so a lot of milk is obtained in a small space. In the end, for the consumer milk from mountain pasture, cows is often associated with smaller productions linked to a precise territory, with more complex flavors and an image of greater naturalness, and it is often destined for the production of traditional alpine or mountain dairy cheeses. Milk from intensive lowland farms, on the other hand, is more uniform and available in large quantities with generally lower prices and hygienic quality controlled in a rigorous way, but with a less evident connection to a specific landscape and ecosystem. Essentially, the choice between the different types of milk and between the different animal origins depends on nutritional needs, taste preferences, sensitivity towards animal welfare, and attention to the environmental impact of livestock farming.